The Paper Trail of Erasure: How Official Records Reveal a System Engineered to Annihilate Identity and Accountability. Author, Baron Dodger. Document type, compiled evidentiary archive and analytical narrative. Primary access location, permanent hosted file on Google Drive. Link, https://drive.google.com file d/1 cavac user 8a6 bsmitten was qeuy overview usp equals drivesk. The document appears in the uploaded file titled The Paper Trail of Erasure: How Official Records Reveal a System Engineered. Statement of Significance. 1. Documentary and archival significance. The Paper Trail of Erasure functions as a compiled archive of administrative documentation spanning multiple decades of interactions between an individual and governmental or institutional authorities. Its central purpose is to assemble dispersed records, letters, determinations, administrative correspondence, and institutional communications, into a single evidentiary corpus. The significance of this form of compilation lies in the methodological principle that institutional decisions often exist in fragmented administrative silos. When examined individually, each record appears to address a discrete procedural matter. When assembled across agencies and time periods, however, the records may reveal patterns, contradictions, or systemic administrative outcomes that are not visible through isolated review. In this sense, the document's principal contribution is archival synthesis, the construction of a unified evidentiary narrative from materials that originate largely within the administrative record itself. 2. Methodological significance. The document implicitly demonstrates a research approach in which large bodies of bureaucratic documentation are analyzed collectively rather than institutionally. This approach parallels emerging analytical methods in administrative law analysis, digital humanities archival synthesis, artificial intelligence-assisted document analysis, governance transparency research. The significance of this method lies in its potential to reveal interagency contradictions or cumulative administrative outcomes that conventional oversight structures may not detect when decisions are evaluated independently. 3. Significance of digital timestamping and verifiable records. The document references cryptographic verification mechanisms including SHA-256, open timestamps. These technologies serve a specific evidentiary function. They establish verifiable proof that a document existed in a particular form at a particular moment in time. The significance of such mechanisms includes integrity of record. Cryptographic hashing ensures that any alteration of the document would produce a different hash value, making tampering detectable. Temporal proof. Timestamp protocols record when a file existed, establishing a historical marker that cannot easily be retroactively falsified. Archival permanence. When combined with public hosting platforms such as Google Drive, timestamping allows a document to function as a persistent evidentiary artifact within the digital public record. Within legal and scholarly contexts, these mechanisms strengthen the credibility and traceability of documentary evidence. 4. Ethical and professional implications. The document raises broader questions regarding the ethical obligations of professionals who encounter documentary evidence of potential administrative inconsistencies or systemic harm. Within democratic and professional frameworks, individuals occupying roles such as legal practitioners, public administrators, regulators, journalists, investigators, scholars, generally operate under professional norms that include reviewing credible evidence within their area of expertise, ensuring transparency and procedural integrity, addressing institutional contradictions where they arise, safeguarding human dignity and rights. The significance of the document in this context lies not in asserting predetermined conclusions but in presenting a record that invites ethical examination. Professional responsibility does not require agreement with the document's interpretation. However, it does recognize the importance of considering credible evidence presented within the public record. 5. Themes of truth, justice, and accountability. The broader conceptual framework surrounding the document engages long-standing principles in democratic governance and legal ethics. Truth. Documentary evidence forms the basis upon which historical and legal understanding develops. Preservation of records enables later verification and reinterpretation. Justice. Justice systems rely upon documented facts and transparent procedures to assess claims, grievances, and institutional conduct. Accountability. Administrative authority carries obligations to ensure that decisions remain consistent with law, policy, and ethical standards. Humanity and dignity. At the center of many administrative and legal systems is the recognition that individuals possess inherent dignity and rights deserving of protection. The document's assembly of records is therefore significant as a potential contribution to the evidentiary dialogue through which institutions examine their own practices. 6. Compensation and institutional responsibility. Where documentary records suggest potential administrative errors, contradictions, or systemic harm, legal frameworks within democratic societies typically provide mechanisms for administrative review, judicial oversight, regulatory investigation, financial compensation or restitution. The document does not itself determine liability or entitlement. However, by presenting an integrated record, it raises questions that may be relevant to institutional accountability mechanisms designed to address harm and restore justice where appropriate. 7. Inevitability of historical evaluation. One of the enduring characteristics of documentary evidence is its persistence. Once preserved within the public record, particularly when supported by cryptographic timestamping, it becomes part of a historical archive that future investigators, scholars, and institutions may evaluate independently. In this sense, the significance of the document lies partly in the principle that preserved records enable long-term scrutiny. Evidence may acquire new meaning as additional information emerges. Institutional practices are ultimately judged within the broader historical record. This process reflects a fundamental principle of democratic systems. Truth claims are tested through documentation, scrutiny, and time. Concluding assessment. The paper trail of Erasure is significant as an example of documentary synthesis in the digital age. By assembling administrative records, applying digital verification techniques, and situating the resulting archive within broader discussions of governance and ethics, the document contributes to ongoing debates about transparency in complex bureaucratic systems, the role of digital evidence in public accountability, the ethical obligations of professionals who encounter documentary records of potential institutional contradiction. Whether interpreted as an evidentiary archive, a research artifact, or a call for institutional reflection, the document demonstrates the enduring power of preserved records, verifiable data, and open scrutiny in shaping the pursuit of truth, justice, and accountability. Permalink. https://drive.google.com file d/1 cavac user 8a6 bsmitten qeuy overview usp equals drivesp. Additional statement. Weaponization of false allegations, psychological targeting, and institutional silence. This additional statement explicates the significance of weaponizing and falsely manipulating a healthy adult gay active sexuality into a false narrative of non-existent pedophilia allegations as a deliberate and malicious means to completely damage the victim, without a crime ever being committed, no victims, no arrests, and no legal process. Yet it is proven to be utilized as a socially fatal blaspheme that is then parroted with military-grade V2K audio harassment, in conjunction with creating conditions of financial devastation and obstructing legal aid. This occurs while filing NDAs to NDIS providers who both acknowledge a girl was paid to create false allegations of a sexual crime, not due to anything non-consensual, but due to weaponizing Beran's gay identity against him in order to gay shame him by homophobic police. The breakup that followed was the scene where Beran experienced youthful and consensual sex that federal police described as regretted but consensual. Additionally, it was confirmed that an assassination attempt occurred that Beran demanded Ben give to federal police. Ben first saw this as paranoid, but he then confirmed police stated the targeted killing was a close call, and the murder was not prevented because anyone cared but because Beran had published the evidence. Further significance arises from the media jackout funded with a black budget and supported by a media gag on the biggest whistleblower testimony involving a disabled person in Australia's history. Not a single professional has been able to disprove what would have been the targeted killing of a gay disabled unprotected whistleblower who was a targeted individual, politically exiled, his home destroyed, and forced to live in his car as a PhD holding vulnerable disabled person. Not a single professional has been able to disprove Beran's accusations, let alone even simply respond to his fact-checked, evidence-based, published online and blockchain time-stamped testimony. Currently Beran is entrapped by the very agencies who feign care but deliberately entrap him, not as anything resembling political or bureaucratic oversight, but as a conscious, deliberate, cruel and malicious intention to impoverish him and cause harm. These same structures then weaponize psychiatry when he reports on the 24/7 parroting of trigger slander, false accusatory terms such as pedo, they know, faggot, and kill yourself. These terms are deployed as faintly audible sounds designed to underpin psychological perception, which are then parroted again by paid government gang stalkers who intercept him in public and are instructed to mumble these same terms in a manner impossible to prove and always explainable as the victim's paranoia, mental illness, or the result of illegal drugs deliberately placed within his life via gay chat apps presented as the only relief from a desperate life of poverty. Every dimension of his person and sentience is desecrated in what can only be described as total and complete psychological warfare designed to be explained away through plausible deniability. Despite the entire political structure and every professional being aware of their own institutional complicity and awareness of the cruelty, instead, thinly veiled bureaucratic language is used to address only narrow nuances within professional remits while omitting the holistic dimension of a proven political targeting that no one has the courage to acknowledge or mention. Stamp and verify. The paper trail of Erasure: How Official Records Reveal a System. PDF 52.2 kilobytes SHA 256. 418 F13 DC 6390 D0682 2 F51 F12 FFAZ